I would like to call our work session to order. Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Daniels? Perfect timing. At the buzzer. Ms. Green?
Present.
Mr. Madsen?
Here.
Mr. Majors?
Here.
Ms. Rawls?
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Present.
And Ms. Bowers?
Present, thank you. We will begin our committee business this evening with the work of the Administration Committee. Our first bill for discussion tonight is Bill 11 of 2022. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Bill 11, 2022, an ordinance reenacting ordinance number 9 of 2017 for the purposes of reauthorizing within the city of Harrisburg an area previously designated as a neighborhood improvement district, redesignated the Harrisburg Downtown Improvement District Corporation, a nonprofit entity, to administer the same accepting an updated business plan for the district and reauthorizing assessments for the operation thereof and meeting all other requirements under the Neighborhood Improvement District Act for continuation of the same and repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts of ordinances.
Thank you. Will everyone present to discuss this bill please come forward? Good evening.
Good evening. How is everyone this evening?
Hanging in there,
Good,
thanks.
good. Well, I just wanted to start things out. I'm Todd Vanderwoody, the Executive Director for the Harrisburg Downtown Improvement District. And joining me this evening is our Board President, Robert Potter, and Marita Kelly. You all know Marita, the Director of Finance for the city. I'm just going to make a short presentation here, very brief, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have about the Downtown Improvement District. Just a little background. We've been in existence 22 years, and we're focused on strengthening downtown's competitive edge as a regional employment center, shopping and entertainment district, and primary visitor destination, and really to be a voice and advocate for discussion about downtown Harrisburg, the central business district. So the improvement district is funded by the property owners located in the boundaries, which I'll speak of in just a minute, for value-added services to really improve their properties within the district. So the reason we're here this evening, and you heard the bill, we are authorized to operate through the end of this calendar year, December 31st of 2022. And we're looking for extending that, basically the sunset clause in there 5 years, which would take us to December 31st of 2027. The DID territory. So the boundaries of the DID. So to the north, if you go up 2nd Street, both sides of Pine Street are included in the district. And then we continue up 2nd Street and both sides of State Street. So at the top of the district, it's like a T that goes up 2nd Street and includes State Street. And those are the properties to the north. To the west, we're bounded by Front Street and of course the river there. To the south, Mary Street and UPMC. And then we loop around the train Amtrak station and the Capitol to the east. And within the district, the total number of assessed properties is 269 that pay into the DID. So our overall mission throughout all these years has been a focus on making downtown really and continuing to make it clean, safe, and beautiful. And just a couple of highlights from some of the programs that we've been involved with in the last few years. We did self-fund a small business emergency fund, which we self-funded over $48,000 to our property owners and helped out over 50 of them during the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, speaking of the pandemic, we worked with the city and had Saturday nights in the city street dining. in 2020 and 2021. And again, that really helped the restaurants out during the pandemic to really kind of increase their business since they were limited for indoor seating. We've also operated a facade improvement program. We assisted, again, this was self-funded, assisted 14 properties throughout the district with upgrades, and that's either storefronts, sidewalks, windows, painting. We did 14 properties and spent over $50,000 on that. Event-wise, we operate each and every year the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and we have done so since 2017. We also are a good partner with the city in all the city events. The upcoming holiday parade here on the 19th of this month, New Year's Eve, Ice and Fire Festival, and all the city events there. We've also performed some art projects. The most recent one has been our banner program. We replaced banners with our seasonal banners. Our fall banners are up down in the district right now. We're getting ready to swap those out for colder weather as we bring the holidays in here for our winter ones. We also have spring banners and summer banners that will rotate throughout. We've also painted tree pots, traffic utility boxes, partnered with Sprocket Mural Works for murals throughout downtown. Some of the streetscape improvements, a lot of tree planting and trimming, upkeep of shrubs and grasses. We look at this as really building greenery downtown. We've also been involved replacing street lights with the city and some other lighting. We're also put in the artistic bike racks that you see downtown that are shaped like bikes, and we have some more that we're going to bring out next May during National Bike Month. Just a couple of things of what we do kind of daily, 7 days a week. We clean the whole area, sidewalk cleaning and sweeping, daily curb cleaning and sweeping, remove any graffiti. We do seasonal sidewalk power washing. We do a lot of weeding. Probably one thing that's most noticeable that we do, our beautification program, is all the flowers. We have over 350 flower pots and flower baskets throughout downtown. We also plant in front of the city government center here, and also the CAT transfer station. We do that now, that little triangle over there, and all their flowers. We also hire off-duty Harrisburg police officers that walk the district on Friday and Saturday evenings. Our website, harrisburgdid.com, is upgraded. And we really are building our social media presence and really looking at contains information about upcoming special events in the DID and city events. We produce and print the only downtown map. And really one of the big things too that everybody's always interested in is a message board here in Market Square. We operate that from our office to talk about upcoming events and businesses downtown. We operate the Downtown Visitor Center right there at our office at the corner of 2nd and Market, right down the street. And one of the things that everybody knows that we do is the Restaurant Week. And this past year, we had 22 restaurants involved, which was the most ever. And we really opened that up citywide and got a lot of restaurants involved. So some of the things we're looking at here in the future, we're looking to continuously increase our social media and really increase our weekly newsletter. It's a great way to get the word out about events. We're looking at increase and updating the wayfinding signage downtown. It's something that hasn't been done for a while. We'd like to be involved in that. I mentioned some of our green initiatives, but I think that's something that we're really looking at continuing and improving. Looking at potentially increasing the police patrols, off-duty police down here. And then we have right now 2 solar trash cans. It's something that we've looked at, and it's trash and recycling stations. And there's not a whole lot of recycling stations down here for the public. So we're looking at adding 5 to 10 of those here as the years go on. And then we're really looking to, we've been pretty successful with grant programs through the state and the county, and also can take a look too at some self-funding areas. And I mentioned our facade program and our small business funds. So we're really kind of looking at expanding those opportunities for the property owners and to do more streetscape improvements. At this time, I'd just like to turn it over to Marita, if you want to say a few words.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, council. It's good to see you. The mayor, I had spoke with her briefly, and she wanted me to really reiterate the value that the Downtown Improvement District does bring to the Central Business District, particularly as you can look outside our own window here at City Hall, the beautiful flowers, and they pretty much are in bloom 3/4 of the year, and they bring a bright spot to City Hall and to the train station. I think the hanging baskets are always, it forces kind of the driver who's driving by to look up instead of maybe not look down and see the trash cans that are out on a Thursday or Friday. So that's very impressive. I know that the DID is also very lucky to be able to have some opportunities for facade improvements through the downtown center at 3rd and Verbeck. So I would certainly encourage that. It's very impressive that they've been already been able to assist Central Business District businesses with facade improvements. And we certainly are grateful for your efforts in improving those business areas in the Central Business District. And I think that the most attractive thing are the restaurants. It's been a tough struggle during COVID, but I know Todd has made every effort on the earth to try to attract businesses to the luncheon crowd, to the early afternoon crowd, evening crowd. I know that he and I occasionally will visit a few places to just see how great we do have these wonderful businesses in Central Business District, and it encourages other communities and in other counties even to come over and see our great restaurant row that has been such an attraction these last several years. So we do support this as an administration. The mayor asked me to speak on her behalf. So those are just my few parting words, but I do think that I'm personally a flower lover, so I love seeing the flowers and the bright spot that it brings to Central Business District. Thank you.
Marita, thank you. Once again, we appreciate your continued support of the Downtown Improvement District and our mission to keep things clean, safe, and beautiful for the property owners and really make Harrisburg a great place to live, work, shine, dine, and play. And we're always open to any suggestions that you may have or any comments. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Potter, did you have anything you wanted to share?
No, I'm good. Thank you. But I appreciate your time today for listening and for reacting to us. We really hope you reauthorize us for another 5 years.
Thank you. I just have 2 questions. The first is regarding the solar trash cans that you mentioned. Where are they located?
We have one that is located right on the corner of 2nd and Locust, and it's right by one of our bike racks. And it's solar powered, and one side compacts the trash, and the other side is for recyclables. And the city goes and empties those, and it holds 5 times more trash than a normal 50-gallon trash can. The other location is right outside of Strawberry Square on Market Street, right by Market on Market. That's where the second one is.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
My other question, I guess this would be for Solicitor Grover, was just regarding process. I know that when the DID was reauthorized 5 years ago, the process was a little bit different. So I just wanted to note what we're doing here with this bill.
Sure, Madam President. When we took a look at this and I sat down in some detail with your new research analyst, Cedric, who did a very nice job of pulling this apart. And we looked at the detailed language of the Enabling Act. There were 2 words in it that seemed to say that we did not have to go through the same long process anymore. There was a reference that you could have a continuation. As a reference, you could have a reenactment. The city has, for the last 4 times it did it, I think 3 times it did it, treated it like it was a brand new thing. It started as if it was the first time it ever existed. It had public hearings on it. It had the votes on it. It had this long advertising. And so we did look around the research, and the city of Erie had the same interpretation we did and has an improvement district and treats this like any other ordinance once enacted. It comes back to you. It gets a first reading. It gets a workshop or a public session in committee and comes back for a vote of the council. And of course, amendments if the council wanted amendments to it. So it does help us expedite the process from what it was before. I have been in direct contact with the new solicitor for the DID, and they're of the same opinion that we are. Before you vote, I think we're going to have a written opinion from him that says that. At the moment, I have it just in an email.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify, and thank you to our research analyst, Mr. Cedric Humphrey, for his assistance in synthesizing this process for us. I don't have any questions. I thought your overview was very complete. So I will open the floor to questions from my colleagues. I will begin with Councilman Rodriguez. Do you have any questions?
Just one. If all goes well, what is your plan to bring some new tourism into the area moving forward?
I'll use bold. Yeah. Well, one of the things that we work very closely with is the visit Hershey Harrisburg, the Visitors Bureau. We work very closely with them on some tourism ideas. A couple of things that we're looking at is a mural walk, a mural trail. I think that would be very popular as the murals grow and grow throughout the city. But that's just one area. And I think there's other things that we can take a look at that I've seen in other areas, maybe a dining passport or a coffee passport, something like that, to really try to increase the business down here for our great restaurants and coffee shops and retail.
Thank you for that answer. No further questions, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Daniels, any questions?
Yeah, I'm not able to open the attachment. Mr. Grover, what do you anticipate? Because the heading references inconsistent ordinances or parts of ordinances. What do you anticipate those inconsistencies to be?
We just simply reiterated what was in the prior caption. That's all we did from the other 4 times we've done this.
Oh, okay. So the only thing that's changed is the process and not the language.
Yeah, the process, not the language. That's correct.
And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Majors, any questions?
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you all for being here. We do appreciate the work that the DID does. One of the things that we've heard from residents that live in the downtown area that are excluded from the DID is, weekends and parking. Is there any additional things that you think you can do to help with the residential parking issues that occur when we do have the influx of folks coming to explore our restaurants on Fridays and Saturday nights?
Yeah, the one thing that we are involved with along with the city and the county is the free after 5 parking that we do offer for people coming in. I think it's always a challenge with the parking downtown and something that we always kind of look at what can we do from the restaurant standpoint. Can they cover the parking for their people that come in to the restaurants with their bill, or can we have a punch card or something like that to help out? It's our hope that, as time goes on, the residential population is growing downtown, as everyone knows, and parking is always an issue. And again, we've kind of toyed with the idea of maybe some shuttles for events that we have down here, but then you get into traffic. But I'd be very open to any ideas that council or anybody out there would have to assist with that.
Okay, thank you on that. And I guess we can all work to try to explore some solutions there. Addition to the free after 5, I know one thing that the city, the county, and I guess Standard Parking had partnered with before was the Love HBG as well. Is that something you guys are looking to continue? I know it was only originally authorized for up to 3 years, and that would be expiring right around this time.
Yes, that is the Love HBG code for the free 4 hours on Saturday, which I think is very important part of the overall free after 5 parking to continue. Especially for some of the events that we have down here. I know SP Plus has been very good on offering the Market Square Garage for the $10 for the whole day for a lot of the events, but the Love HBG code really does help.
Yeah. So is that something you'd be looking to work to continue? The original agreement was for 3 years, which would expire this year. So you'd be
Yep.
willing to work with us,
Yes.
the city and the county and parking authority. Okay,
Yes.
great. Additionally, I think, during the pandemic, we did see a lot of, we had a lot of up and down with our businesses. In terms of the health of Restaurant Row and other businesses, I know there's been at least articles about, certain proprietors that may be retiring, looking to, who have take up a lot of real estate downtown. Any ideas, are there discussions with them about bringing in new businesses? What's that look like? Because I know as we're, transitioning out of the pandemic, hopefully fully, there might be some, in the next few years having, changing in business ownership. What's that going to look like for the DID moving forward?
I think with all the positives that we have downtown to offer, I think those places will continue to operate in some fashion. I think in a positive fashion. I think our struggle right now is the lunchtime crowd with a lot of people not back in the offices still. And I think it's starting to come back a little bit, but I think a lot of these businesses are either cutting hours or, adjusting their staff with that. But I have a strong feeling that, business will continue to grow and prosper downtown. And I think we talked about the residential population growth down here with a lot of new apartments and that kind of stuff, renovated buildings, which I think is great. I think once that occurs and keeps growing, I think that's going to help out all the businesses down here, especially the restaurants.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's something as a city we're also going to be struggling with as more businesses are moving to this telework and, a hybrid approach to business, what we do for our businesses that are, are lunch dependent. And last question, I think, you mentioned the success of the Saturday Night in the City program. Is that something else that you'd be looking to explore? What other ventures would you be looking to explore in the city? I think, as someone who came down a couple times for Saturday Night in the City, it was nice to see people out and about, in the pandemic, but would you explore doing something like that, in the future, or other kind of partnerships we can do with the city and business owners to, bring a different dynamic to downtown?
Yes, that's something we're looking at. We did not do it this past year in 2022. We wanted to give it kind of a rest a little bit while the restaurants kind of got back on their feet. We do have some ideas to maybe do a second Saturday, do it on Saturdays, potentially starting next year. If we can get good restaurant buy-in, again, it was one of those things that everybody worked together on to make successful. I think with that, we could have some theme nights. We did it every Saturday night from June, July, and August, and some September in 2020, and then we brought it back in June through September the next year. So I think, every Saturday was a little bit much, especially for the restaurants with the takeout, really the pick up and take down of the tables and chairs and all that. But I think if we could come up with some events, again, a second Saturday, and I think one thing that is great is the Ice and Fire Festival. When that was on 2nd Street, that was fantastic. It would be one of kind of an event like that if you can envision that from a couple of years back.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, President Bowles.
Thank you. Vice President Green, any questions?
Thank you. The questions that I have already been asked and answered. I will just kind of put a comment in here that I love what DID does. I'd love to see more DIDs. It wouldn't be called DID, but more DIDs throughout the city. I'd love if you guys would be willing to help nurture some of those organizations so that we can kind of get this economic growth throughout the city, not just in the downtown core. So.
Yes, certainly. It's something that, I'm a big believer in the DID, of course, the downtown improvement districts, but we get a lot of, and Marita kind of mentioned, we get a lot of visitors from other cities and counties that come down just to see what we do. And we'd be willing to sit down if there's property owners or groups that would like to learn more about the downtown improvement district. I'd be more than happy to sit down and talk with them.
Thank you. Councilman Madsen, any questions?
Yeah, so typically for nonprofits, I actually forget because I know this, but would your meetings be open or accessible to the public?
Yes.
Okay,
If they wanted to attend.
okay. And is there any way just to make sure that we coordinate with our team here to just get out if folks maybe have some questions? Because I know we get a lot of questions, particularly on the parking piece.
Yeah.
And if you, could make those accessible, perhaps, defer them to you, especially if they're new residents to the downtown, just to know about all of the amenities and just talk to them about issues in the downtown area.
Sure.
Okay. That was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Rawls, any questions?
Yes, thank you, President Bowers. Thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. You gave me some insight that I didn't know. I did not know that you did all that you've done downtown, and that was from you with the bike racks and the flowers. So I just learned something new today. So thank you. You have definitely gave downtown a facelift. That's been much needed. So thank you for that. I just had a few questions, and excuse any of my ignorance because I don't know something, but is there a fee that the city pays you for doing these activities or having the downtown improvement district?
No, we are solely funded by the property owners. And they pay a millage rate based on their property value that's assigned by Dauphin County. So that's how we're funded. We actually assist the city in events, and actually I do finances for the holiday parade for the city. So,
Right.
So we do that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's no city money involved here.
Okay, thank you. And then I did see how, I also agree with trying to expand out into the other neighborhoods, to make them look just as nice as it does downtown and bringing more of a tourist attraction. Like I know that Councilman Rodriguez said, I would love to see that as well. I like the Harrisburg Hershey, visit Harrisburg Hershey, because we have a lot of great things down here and we're not too far away. My last question was, do you have anything to do with like the Strawberry Square? It's just so ghostly in there, and just like getting more businesses coming in. Like I can eat downtown, but I can't shop. And I feel like we have so many neat little boutiques and things. Like when we have events, I see them, they're set up, they have booths or whatnot, but I would love to see them maybe in Strawberry Square with their businesses. I just remember when it was so lively.
Yeah, they're trying to bring it back. I think that COVID really hit that pretty hard with all the state employees not there. But I know Harrisburg Flea is going to be there. I believe Saturday. They're starting here in November. So you'll see that. I know there's other events there. It's a great space, and hopefully the retail will kind of come back, and some stores will come back. It was great to see Ama Joe come back on 3rd Street there. She used to be in the square. Now she's right on 3rd Street there. It's great to welcome her back, and some others down there. So it's one of those processes that slowly coming back. So I think you'll see more and more events there. A lot of the events during the summer were outside at the Soma block party south of Market there on 3rd Street. So you see some of that activity now moving inside.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you. I have no other question.
Thank you. I just have one follow-up question before we move forward with our agenda. And it was just about Restaurant Week. You mentioned that this was the largest participation to date of 22 restaurants. I was just curious to know that it was over a 2-week time frame in September. Do you have any metrics to share on participation?
I do not. Typically, we send out a questionnaire to the restaurants and we got some of them back. It's always tough pulling numbers from them, but I will say they all enjoy the increased business that they get. In fact, a couple of them could only do 1 week because of staffing issues. They just couldn't handle the increased business there. So that's always the good news with that. But I think, when we open it up into the entire city, it really helped to get some others involved in that. And I think it increased their business. I just don't have the specific numbers for that.
Okay, no problem. I know that food is an area that we excel in within the city, so I was just curious. Council members, are there any other additional questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much for being here this evening. I'd like to move to add Bill 11 of 2022 to our next legislative agenda. The next resolution for discussion with the Administration Committee is Resolution 68 of 2022. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Yes. Resolution 68, 2022, a resolution authorizing the city solicitor to designate counsel for the performance of certain pro-secretarial functions on behalf of the city of Harrisburg.
Thank you. Solicitor Grover, would you like to share more about this resolution?
Certainly, Madam President. So as you know, the city solicitor's office at this point in time, for a variety of reasons, is very thinly staffed. There are days where we are required to appear in more than one place, and we're at the point where that can't happen. The prosecutorial function is a very limited function. We don't do it a lot, but we're in county court at least 1 day every month for appeals, for codes violations or some similar violations. Sometimes we're trash violations. And we are sometimes at the district justice offices when it involves a more complex matter on a tax issue, when the tax and enforcement office is doing it. We happen to have a very vigorous set of efforts by the codes office this year on 2 significant property owners who have many, many violations. The courts have now separately set 2 full days just for one of them, just to hear the pending appeals, which frankly, our office can't just stop what we're doing and be in court and get ready for those 100 appeals and spend 2 days in court doing it. So normally what we hire outside counsel for is civil litigation and things like that, or for legal advice. If you think about how a district attorney works, how an attorney general works, or as a solicitor works, we're sworn into office. And the question came when we went to designate outside counsel to do it. Well, can you do that? Was the question. Can I stand in court and speak for the city? And so the question was, how do we do it? We looked at the 3rd class city code and took the 2 provisions, the one for our obligation to supervise all the legal work and the council's ability to appoint special counsel. We're basically asking the council to let this office as needed designate people as those conflicts arise, and we cannot be in 2 places at one time, so that the city is properly represented. Otherwise, proper claims can be dismissed from the court for the city failing to move forward to prosecute at the time. So it's an essential need that we have right now. My hope is the need we don't have for very long, but it's one we very much have right now.
Thank you. And there is no impact budgetarily with this?
We have, as you know, a legal line item that is filled every year. What we've done with that long before I got here and while I've been here is that funds a series of outside counsel that is not covered when it's not covered through our 3rd-party insurance administrator. When we make direct payments for a number of things. That fund, if you recall, we were back in front of council to supplement that fund to $100,000 for anticipated issues coming up. These were some of those items. And then the question really got to be a practical one of how do we basically hand someone this work and go into a courtroom. So the idea, if council approves this, we're going to create a form that formally designates the person, have a city seal put on it, and have the authorization signed, so that if someone challenges them, in court, they will have something to back up their ability to be there.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I'll now open the floor to questions from my colleagues. I will begin with Councilwoman Rawls. Any questions?
Thank you, President Bowers. I don't have any right now, but I may. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Mattson?
No questions for me, thank you.
Okay, Vice President Green?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Majors?
I guess the one question I do have, we may have another follow-up after this is, as President Bowers was talking about the money that would be necessary to accommodate this, how many special counsels are we looking to bring on board?
Only one and one at a time. I think it
Okay.
may not, it's probably all going to be the same firm, Laborie Law, but what lawyer is available to handle it? They've been doing work for the city since 1986. And handle our civil rights defenses, our general liability cases. And they're the ones who are defending us in the ACLU matter. And it's going to be one of their attorneys that attend to this, but just one at a time. That's what we're doing.
Okay. And in terms of the fee schedule or hourly, are we looking at retainer, or is it going to be hourly basis?
It's an hour. That's how we pay all of them, is hourly right
Okay.
now. So, and it would be the same hourly basis we pay for the rest of the work, which is like somewhere around $225 an hour is what we pay.
Okay. All right. I may have a follow-up in writing later, but no further questions.
Thank you. Councilwoman Daniels, any questions?
Yeah, so what happens on the civil side in terms of that budget line item? Like, I guess maybe, do you have an expectation of how much this might end up costing?
So I've already encumbered the money for the firm as part of the general encumbrance we do for Laborie. So for what we expect to spend, it is already in what's been appropriated and encumbered. We have Laborie does again a number of different things for us, including injunction defenses. We already have an encumbrance for them. We added to that based on our reallocation in June or July, I guess it was June, for part of this purpose. This really got to whether we have to have some formal document so it's not being able to be attacked that they're unauthorized to be there. So the money was already appropriated. We already have the funds.
And then,
It's going to be a few $1,000s, might be $5,000 to get through these 2 days of hearings between preparation and completion of them.
and how many attorneys have we interviewed? Have there been any?
So the last interview I had, I got a call the day before it, which was 2 weeks ago, to say I got a better job offer, and she hadn't been interviewed yet. The one before that, we got down to the offer and got a call back and said I was offered $20,000 more by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And we've had very thin applications this year for lots of reasons.
So this could be a pretty long term.
Well, frankly, we're going to come back to the county council and the mayor for next year and say, I need to pay lawyers more money. That's the only thing. I mean, and economically, it makes sense, because if we're doing 5,000 days for 2 days of hearings, which we would have covered in-house, we're paying $30,000 for an outside investigation that would have been done in-house. It's a rolling number that's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's the reality of it.
And then, I would like to see the ordinance have like a cap on what you're able to authorize in terms of the amounts, and it's fine to match that to the budget line.
You want the resolution to have a cap in it.
Yeah, like an amount cap.
So how do I do that if I don't know what I'm going to be prosecuting?
Well, I mean, we have a budget line item, so there's already some authorization for expenditure, so.
Right, so I already have that built in. I'm just saying I already have a limit to what I can spend. It's an appropriation. I have $10,000 of it not encumbered yet for the year, which means I've encumbered somewhere close to $280,000, I think, for the year in outside counsel so far. Encumbrance meaning a specific firm has funds available to bill us against, and it goes through the process. They always lag a few months behind in their billing. So I don't know that I'll see bills for a November hearing until January or February.
Right, but I think from what you're explaining, the encumbrances we have are for this or for the civil side, right? This is the first time we're authorizing for
but that's what
prosecutorial.
it's been used, but I'm saying it's the same encumbrance. It's the same firm. It's the same fee agreement. It's for
Yeah, so
legal
that's what I'm saying,
services.
that the ordinance could cap your authority to spend up to whatever the budget line, I don't remember what the
If-
budget
if-
line
if-
item was.
If you wish to make that motion, you can make that motion. I have never exceeded my budget since I've been here.
And that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Rodriguez, any questions?
No question. They were geared towards the budget and what firms would we select? Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, comments, or concerns related to Resolution 68? Okay. All right. I would like to move to add Resolution 68 of 2022 to our next legislative session agenda, please. This concludes the work of the Administration Committee. We will now move to the Community and Economic Development Committee. Chair Daniels.
Thank you. Mr. Truesdell, if you don't mind reading Resolution 65-2022 into the record, please.
Of course. Resolution 65, 2022, a resolution approving a preliminary final land development plan to convert the existing building located at 1510 Market Street into a 14-room supportive housing facility with shared living facilities and accessory supportive services.
Thank you. And if the representative for the city could articulate the history of this ordinance and where we are, and then if the applicants are here, they can describe their project.
So as to good evening, council. So as to this resolution before you tonight, just want to provide a little background. First, starting with the fact that our former deputy planning director, Jacob Bowen, had actually walked the applicants through the process and managed this. So I'll hopefully be able to fill in most of the details, but the applicants may want to do so as well. Second, want to note that this is kind of almost a second phase to the redevelopment of the church at 1510 Market Street. The initial phase was a childcare center on the ground floor, I believe. So the applicants are now looking to continue filling out the space in that church to fully activate the building. And that is the request that is here before you today. But there may be some aspects that kind of relate to both activities that are occurring on site, specifically with respect to like off-street parking at a lot that they own across the street. So as was read in the record, this proposal is looking to finalize the conversion of the former house of worship there on the corner of 16th and Market into a 14-room supportive housing facility with shared living facilities and accessory supportive services. And this kind of works on building out the mission of Shalom to kind of do full family care, working with the childcare facility on top of the transitional housing facility that's on site. And the proposal also involved a variance application to be able to establish a transitional housing facility on site. So the applicants did receive approval of that zoning relief from the zoning hearing board recently. So they have secured their zoning relief for that aspect of the project as well. The Harrisburg Planning Commission at their October 5th meeting voted to approve the request with the following conditions. The applicant shall coordinate with the Planning Bureau staff to bring the parking lot at 1513 Market Street into conformance with the design standards for off-street parking, which will improve traffic circulation while discouraging vehicular egress and ingress over the public sidewalk area. The applicant will provide the Planning Bureau with any documentation related to the lease of spaces in the surface parking lot at 1513 Market Street. And to just clarify that aspect, there's kind of a parking lot across Market Street from this site, but it's actually two separate properties, and one of them is owned by the church there and the other is owned by Shalom House. And so there's really no differentiation between those two, but the intention of those conditions was to kind of formalize that aspect and to almost combine them into a single parking lot, because right now the small little lot that the applicants are using for parking, there's no real vehicular access to it. So you kind of almost have to drive over the sidewalk to access it, or hope that there's not a vehicle parked in the adjacent parking lot. So as part of this approval, we're just kind of working with the applicants to make sure that we formalize the design of both of those parking lots and ensure that they kind of add a little bit of beautification to the area by having some screening, some physical separation between the parking lots and the sidewalk, so that you don't get that issue of people driving over the sidewalk to get onto the lot. The applicant shall coordinate with the city to remove the non-permitted gravel in the playground area behind the site and bring the property into conformance with the zoning code. So as part of that first phase, the childcare center, they ended up building an enclosed playground behind the property on 16th Street. But as part of that initial review of that project, there was a prohibition on use of that land there for parking, because they did have parking across the street. And so we're just looking to kind of formalize that and make sure the gravel is removed there so that it's not continuing to be used as a parking area. And then finally, the applicant will coordinate with the Department of Public Works to ensure that the account billing reflects the establishment of active uses on site. This is a pretty boilerplate language we have in our conditions as we have these buildings getting adaptively reused and having their use changed to make sure that the trash account billing is brought up to kind of code, and also to make sure that the appropriate refuse container needs for whatever uses are going on site are being met. Obviously, there's maybe some difference between a supportive housing facility and childcare center, and when you combine both of those, it may necessitate, for example, upgrading from those large toters to a dumpster. And that's just why we want the applicants to coordinate with the Department of Public Works to ensure that they're using the right refuse containers and locating them in a place that the DPW's trash trucks can access. The Planning Commission recommended that City Council approve the request for the following reasons. Proposal will provide critical housing to women and children facing homelessness in a way that is compatible with both the property and surrounding community. The proposal will adaptively reuse a property which has demonstrated physical hardship based on the overall large size and configuration that would otherwise be challenging to use within strict conformity with the zoning code. And finally, if approved with conditions 1 and 4 in the proposed project, it would bring 2 adjacent properties into compliance with the zoning code, improving stormwater management, traffic circulation, and aesthetics within the surrounding area. With that, I'll, I guess, maybe turn it over to the applicants if they have any additional things they would like to add.
Yeah, if you don't mind, introducing yourself, giving us a description of the project and the services that will be provided,
Sure.
and timeframe for when the project should start and end.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Kyla Harvey. I'm the Executive Director for Shalom House and Shalom Properties. We purchased the Unitarian Church on Market Street in 2019. And as he stated, the first floor has been fully renovated, and Head Start currently occupies the first floor of the building. The second floor has halfway been renovated. Our drop-in site is there, and the Shalom House administrative offices are now located on the second floor. And we have worked with the codes office to ensure that everything was up to codes with the second addition to the church space. We are now looking to build out the sanctuary into transitional housing, a mixed housing use. So we would like to do transitional as well as additional emergency shelter units in that space. We don't really, we've kind of just been going through the process and securing funding to get the project off the ground. So I don't have really a start or end date at this point. We've been kind of just fundraising and grant writing and trying to get through some of the formalities to ensure that we can move forward in that capacity. So yeah, we are looking for that space to be kind of a social service hub right there in the middle of Market Street, where it is definitely needed. Through our drop-in services, we've supported over 20 city residents with accessing housing. linking them to other community programs, providing utility assistance. So the need is there, and we're trying to kind of fill that void in the Allison Hill community.
Thank you. And then for Mr. Knight, so the zoning relief, was that in terms of number of people who can occupy, or was it in terms of purpose of use?
It was in terms of the purpose of the use to establish a supportive housing facility in an RM zone district. So that was what that variance was for.
Okay, and I think that's pretty much it for me. I'll open up to my council members. I'll start with Councilwoman Rawls.
Thank you, Councilwoman Daniels. Good evening to everybody. Thank you for being here. I don't have any questions. Mine were answered the last time. This is just a much needed project, so I can't wait till it gets started. So my question is just, when can we come for the ribbon cutting and all of that? Like, I'm just excited. We need it. It's gonna help so many women. And men, I don't know if it's men and women, just women and children, but still that is needed. And I'm sure down the line that can pose one to open a men's one, because they have children too. And sometimes it is just them. So, but this is much needed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
John Snyder, Project Civil Consultant. I'd like to hand out a photograph for the one condition.
You can give it to our city clerk and he can distribute.
I think we just briefly wanted to have a discussion. We can meet the conditions. We have no problem with them. The one condition we do want to talk to you folks about is improving the parking lot on the other side of the road on an additional property wasn't part of the original request. It's a non-conforming existing parking lot. It has 12 spaces on it right now. Property is only 40-foot wide. Request was to be made, bring it up to current code. If we do that, we will go from 12 to 5 spaces. Now, we have acquired a parking agreement on the adjoining property lot for 12 spaces, which meets our requirements. However, there are ways that we could not be so drastic and address all of the nonconformities instead of losing 7 spaces, because parking's a premium in this city everywhere. So we'd like some consideration on that. Maybe keeping the existing drive aisle, because there is a curb cut, as you can see, off of Market Street where there is one way. And we can provide a secondary entrance out on 16th Street. But if we leave the parking aisle, the drive aisle, and the parking spaces non-conforming, the spaces they are, and maybe put a parallel space, now we're only losing 5 spaces. And, parking is a premium here, and we'd like some consideration on that.
I would just like to add, so that lot previously was unpaved and it was kind of an eyesore for the community. I more recently got it paved because there was such an issue with parking with Head Start being there. So we recently spent probably about $10,000 to get that paved in line.
So I guess just to clarify, what is the alternative that you're offering?
The alternative would be that we would leave the non-conformity for the parking space size and the aisle width. And as in the picture, you can see the white car would be the first space on your right as you're looking at it from Market Street. We could put a planter between the sidewalk and that car to put some green space. Then on the other side where the black Ford is parked, we would bring an entrance out on the 16th Street and have a parallel space in that area, which would have allow us to have 7 spaces. So we're only losing 5 instead of 7. mean, it's quite a bit of difference.
So I'll continue
Questions?
with my colleagues and then just like follow up, have some follow-up questions if it's not collected. So, Councilman Mattson,
Yeah, yes. Will there be, since we have the contractor here, any opportunities for local NWBE firms to participate in the project?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have some in mind or?
Well, we don't, but my husband, Jamie, is going to help me with ensuring that we're meeting that mark.
Okay. And do you have a specific goal then?
I'm new to this. So I'm
Okay.
still learning.
All right. All right.
And I'm not a contractor, so
Oh, sorry.
that's all right. No, I'm a civil engineer. So
Oh, apologies.
that's all right.
Okay, if you could work with like our city economic development team, they have a list and they can probably walk through the project and talk about specific goals and then let us know if there's opportunities to bid on the project. Share through our network.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilman Green,
Thank you. I don't have any questions for this project.
President Bowers.
Thank you. I just wanted to revisit the parking lot, the condition. So I guess I guess I'm a little confused. Was this discussed previously? I didn't read anything about it in the prior.
That is the first time
Reports.
we were made aware of the condition. And
Okay.
I'll accept it at the planning commission. There's been some limited conversations with your planning staff, but we haven't gotten to a resolution.
I see. Mr. Knight, is there any clarification you can provide on that?
Well, this is the first I'm seeing of this proposal here, so I'll have to take a look at this in for review for conformance with our zoning code. I think, we have something that prohibits having driveways too close to intersections because that creates turning conflicts and maybe some challenges. So I'm not sure maybe in this iteration whether it's something, but we have had some preliminary conversations about maybe what it looks like and where things need to go. So I would definitely be happy to continue having those conversations and just seeing with the applicant and the consultant what works best for them. I'm sure it's something we can come to an agreement on. The only thing I would note is that the more curb cuts you have, basically the more on-street spaces you're losing too. So it's not just a case of, oh, we can lose less by having maybe this configuration this way, but you're losing those publicly accessible spaces on the street too. So that's kind of has to figure into the calculation as well. But again, I don't think it's an intractable problem, and it's something we'd be happy to work with the applicants on to find a solution that works for everybody.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I don't have any other questions.
Councilman Majors.
Thank you. Guess the questions I do have will be with respect to this new proposed condition. And just for clarification, Mr. Knight, on the document that was provided, the proposed conditions, I guess the existing conditions still remain with no regard to the current legislation, correct?
I think you'd have to amend the legislation.
Right. Okay.
I
The
mean,
existing conditions are what they are. Are they being proposed to make the changes prior to us receiving this piece of paper?
so can you clarify?
How many was this parking lot contemplated in the current bill that's before us?
I think the parking lot was discussed, I think initially during that first phase of the redevelopment where they brought in the capillary head start. And it sounds like some work was done subsequent to that. But as far as what's out there right now, I think that's still something where we're going to have to discuss with the applicants exactly what the end result looks like, just to make sure that you can have safe ingress egress to the parking area, that you're not creating conflicts with pedestrians, things of that nature. I don't think the current configuration of the lot precludes safely, developing this as a parking lot. I think it will just require probably some back and forth with the consultant just to see what the options are as far as a final design of the parking lot.
So did this come up as an issue at the planning commission? As I think a late issue, literally sort of towards the end of the presentation. And if memory serves, and I'm not saying my memory is perfect, the planning commission decided to go with the written recommendation with an understanding if there was something to be worked out, it would be worked out prior to council taking final action. So they didn't want to alter what was in front of them, but they understood the concern voiced by the applicant. And the thought was that there needed to be further discussion that couldn't be happening there. This is on a December 1st deemed approved
That
deadline.
was my next
So there's
question.
time to work through to a solution that satisfies, both the city and the applicant's needs for the property.
Okay, well, you anticipated my next question then. So no further questions at this time. Thank you.
Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair Daniels. Thank you, Jeff, for being here, and to the applicants. Just really echoing the sentiments of my colleagues. It shows definitely the parking lot, but if you're familiar with the area on the hill, it's not really showing the Rock Church or that corner store, and how that could potentially, by minimizing the parking there, create more problems for the inner city residents and cause more congestion. So I look forward to hearing more as that parking lot situation develops and seeing how we could potentially support that. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for Mr. Knight, so when the applicant pulled the permit to renovate their parking lot, like were they informed about any of these issues? Like what happened in that process?
I'll have to look back to see when the permit was initially pulled for the paving, to see what kind of outreach. Again, the former deputy plan director, Jacob, might have reached out to them. So I'll either have to look at, we usually digitize the permits that come through. So if there's any notations that were made on that, like, applicant will screen parking lot or something like that, that will usually show up on the permit. So I'll have to go look at the digital records and see what he had, or maybe go back and look through the information in the case file to see if there's, some sort of reference to that. But, we should have some records of that.
Okay. That works.
Sorry,
Sounds
Chair
like-
Daniels. Yeah, I had a question. I might have missed this. My apologies if so. Who currently owns that lot? Just that specific one, not the side of the Rock Church? Is that you got?
That's us.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Any last words from the applicant or the city?
No, I mean, obviously, we're supportive of the proposal overall. It's aside from the fact that of the good it's doing for the community and for the residents that will live there. The applicants have found a way to adaptively reuse a church, which are very difficult structures to reuse. And they've done it in a way that really, I think, from their testimony, shows that it can again become an asset to the community, and they should be commended for that, and for taking on the challenge of reusing a church of this nature. And so we're happy to work with the applicants on whatever aspects necessary to make sure that this project gets across the finish line.
That works. So I would, I'm generally a much more visual person, so I need to see both of these parking lots like in a clearer way. So, I would recommend that the two of you work out an option, and we can probably revisit this, not at the next legislative session, but the one after that. And if you could help with like a clearer
Sure.
parking lot situation for me. And that's pretty much it for the Community and Economic Development Committee. Thank you to the applicants and the city, and that's it.
Thank you, Chair Daniels. We will now move to the Public Safety Committee, Chair Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening. My name is Ralph Rodriguez, Chair of the Public Safety Committee. Tonight, we will be reviewing Resolution 67. Mr. Truesdale, do you mind reading Resolution 67 for the record?
Yes. Resolution 67, 2022, a resolution of the Council of the City of Harrisburg ratifying modifications to the 2020-2025 collective bargaining agreement between the City of Harrisburg and the Fraternal Order of Police, Capital City Lodge, number 12.
All right, thank you for that. Is the applicant or someone from the FOP here today to give an overview, Neil?
No, it's the city's presentation,
Okay.
not the FOP's.
So who
So,
from the administration will be speaking?
so I'm here. This is our outside labor counsel,
Okay.
Romelva. She's with Jack Dean's firm, who's been our labor counselor for the last, I think, 7 years,
Awesome.
and handled all of our union contracts, their firm, in that period of time.
Thank you. And you will be giving an overview today?
Yes.
Would you mind stating your name clearly for the record into the microphone?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And good evening, Madam Chair and
I'm the chair. I'm sorry.
Honorable Chair,
Thank you.
council members. My name is Romilda Crocamo. I will spell that for you.
Thank you.
R-O, M as in Michael, I-L, D as in David A. Last name Crocamo, C-R-O-C-A-M as in Michael O. And I am with a law firm of Elliott Greenleaf.
Thank you for that.
And I'm here this evening to report on the agreed amendments and modification of terms of the collective bargaining agreement between the city of Scranton and the Fraternal Order of Police, Capital City Lodge number 12. Harrisburg, I'm sorry. The agreement comes after efficient, fair, and honest negotiations, and the substantive highlights that are highlighted in the resolution include the agreement for lateral hires of qualified law enforcement personnel, the initial details of which are addressed in a new site agreement. The salary increases to each step in the existing pay scale will be an effective date of July 1st, 2022. Would be a 2.5% increase. For 2023, 3.5%. For 2024, 3.5%. And 2025 at 3.5%. The actual figures are on a table that are on the last page of the agreement. There will also be an added recognized holiday of Juneteenth. That was a police holiday, and also included for your consideration is a memorandum of understanding recognizing the 2022 safety bonuses through the ARPA funding that was agreed to. Any of these enhancements of the agreement are retroactive only for the members that were employed at the time of ratification. If you have any particular questions, I will answer them as best I can this evening or follow up.
Thank you for that, Ms. Kokomo. 13% increase by 2025. I hope that should bring us about competitive. So that'd be awesome. Hopefully we could attract some more into the department. That's awesome. And then Juneteenth, of course, you know, that recognition of a national holiday. So they'll have off, correct?
No, they just make more money.
Oh, okay. That's even better. I love that. Thank you for that. So I guess I will open it up to my fellow council members, starting to my immediate right with Councilwoman Daniels.
Sure. So my battery just died. No, I don't think I have any questions.
Thank you for that. Councilman Majors?
Thank you. So with respect to the addition of the additional holiday, is that just being handled? So there's a special designation on how it's handled for Martin Luther King Day. How is the Juneteenth holiday being?
So under each of the union contracts, there's a provision just on holidays. And
Right,
They
that's what I
treat them
meant.
3 different ways. All we are doing is adding this to the list of that. I think they get an option of when to take the holiday in the police contract. So it doesn't have to be on the holiday, but that is, I believe, the option that they get. Because it isn't always able, because they select their days off at the beginning of the cycle for the whole year. That's how the police bureau do it. They have to put in towards the end of the year, go through the process. And then things like their birthdays or come up and things like that. So they get to basically pick their schedule and they get to take that number of holidays for the listed of approved holidays that are negotiated on the contract. Not always on the holiday, but so that they actually get recognized and paid at a holiday rate for holiday pay throughout the year.
Right.
So it's going to be treated like every other
I
one.
understand that, but on page 4 of, excuse me, at page 5 of, I guess this is, and make sure it's exhibit B. There's a discussion about Martin Luther King holiday and how that is handled versus some of the other holidays. I'm just asking that it would just be, so there will be an additional 16th holiday added, and it will just be handled the way the other holidays are. That won't have a special carve out for Martin Luther King, like which is.
No, that
currently.
was not part of negotiation. It was simply to add it to the list.
Just an addition, not a change in the selection process.
Okay. Let me have- I may have one additional question, Chair. Just have to come back.
Absolutely. Thank you. President Bowers?
Thank you. I just have a question regarding the time frame. So I note that this ends December 31st of 2025. Should either party be interested in reopening before 2025? Is that an option? Or are these the final changes that we expect to see before 2025? I don't know.
Well, we reopened the original CBA to address some issues. In my experience, that's highly unusual, but it is something that happens.
There has to be an agreement to reopen and for what limitations. It was the adoption of additional police personnel as CSAs that triggered this reopening. So so could a new program come in? Could something else that the mayor and the council come to trigger another reopening? Sure, that's possible. But right now, for the party's purposes, this is a binding contract we already have, and this simply makes some modifications to that contract.
Thank you for clarifying. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you for that. Vice President Green?
I don't really have any questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councilman Mattson?
Actually, some of my questions, I think would be directed to Deputy Chief Sorensen. Would it be possible to have you come up, just ask a few things?
DC, it's good to see you. Can you just repeat your name into the microphone for record?
Got it, sorry. Dennis Sorensen, Sorensen.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so in the past, having engaged and talked with officers, I came out on a shift change. I believe you were there. I remember getting some pointed criticisms from the officers regarding, frankly, things I thought fell along with the contract, particularly around pay, overtime, burnout. Seemed to me, I mean, this is in the thick of 2020, so it was a rough time.
Right.
So folks probably were a little burned out. But do you think that this contract will address some of the morale issues that we've been experiencing, particularly the turnover?
The short answer, yes. And this is why. And I think you remember during the, I don't remember why I was here, but I brought up the fact that we're going to come to you at some point in time to talk about this very resolution. We're pretty good at recruiting, and sometimes we have struggled to retain.
Right.
And that is because outside jurisdictions surrounding Harrisburg, and not only in Dauphin County, but in Cumberland and other places, there's higher level of pay at those jurisdictions, and sometimes a lower call volume. But the one thing I think, I wasn't part of the negotiation process, but this is it's a big department, but it's not a big department. I know all the officers. I think overall, this is a very fair offer to them. And I think it will, our recruiting efforts and the ratification of this contract, if that's what the decision is going to put us in a very good position for 2023.
Okay.
And I truly believe, and I've said this to the officers, I said it during our command meetings, is that this act, in concert with what we're doing with recruiting and trying to get good employees here for the city of Harrisburg to be police officers, is going to put us in a very good position where we're going to probably fill our patrol officer ranks in 2023. But we can't do that without this component of it. Because I think people have been waiting to see what happens. Because minus a couple of retirements this year, they've waited to see what's going to happen. Because I mean, it puts them not on par with some of the township pay rates, but it gets them in the ballpark.
Okay.
So I believe they think this will be a very fair offer. Okay. My opinion.
And when you were bargaining, did the bargaining, did what he say reflect the bargaining, I guess, the discussions, or was there a lot of back and forth and frustration?
Without going into particulars, we would need, if you want particulars, we would need to go into executive session.
Okay.
But the negotiations were open and honest. The issues that are facing the Harrisburg Police Department when it comes to recruiting and staffing were discussed and emphasized. This is a problem in not just Harrisburg, but police cities that I'm familiar, especially in the northeast part of the state. The administration was cognizant of that, respectful, and we believe that we came to an agreement that recognizes and honors the work that the police do, what they need to do to go forward.
One final question, just because of the inflation that we're seeing and the global economy sort of being all over the place. Some collective bargaining agreements have put in as a COLA essentially. So and I know we have the 3% increase, but is that something that was discussed potentially, or do we dare, we have our budget and finance director here, talk about putting that in? Because
No,
No,
it wasn't a negotiated item. So.
All right, that was it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mattson. Councilwoman Ross.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. Good evening. Well, I don't really have any questions. I mean, I am still a part of a bargaining institution, so I know how it feels to have a horrible contract. I know how it feels to have a contract you really like and maybe it doesn't get passed or something goes wrong. So I feel like if the officers are with this contract or this looks good, then I'm on board with them because I know how hard it is to have a good one. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. DC, I had a question about the CSAs. Will they now be able to officially follow through with some of the duties as the officers, or are we still waiting for like a further okay from the FOP?
I think that we had an agreement with the FOP to allow them to do what they're doing now.
Okay.
In lieu of these contract negotiations.
Okay.
So they're still out there doing what they're supposed to be doing.
All right.
Yeah, they haven't stopped at this point.
Awesome. And is there any projection as to when possibly we'll be looking to hire some more on the CSA end?
Well, that will be a part of the 2023 budget negotiations.
All right. Awesome. All right.
Right now, they're filled up, sir.
And,
They have their maximum allowable number
that's-
right now. Yes, sir.
We're at 6 right now?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Thank you. Is there any further questions from my colleagues on council regarding this?
Yeah, just to clarify, that this is only for uniformed officers, not for the civilians working for the police department.
it's for the uniformed officers.
Okay. And the CSAs, are they considered uniformed or civilian?
They're part of AFSMI.
That's it.
All right. Thank you for that. One more time, any further questions from my colleagues on council? With that being said, I definitely look towards their support for Resolution 67, and I would like it to be added to our next legislative session. That concludes the work of the Public Safety Committee. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. We will now move to the work of the Building and Housing Committee, Chair Majors.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Truesdale, would you please mind reading Bill 9 of 2022 into the record?
Yes. Bill 9, 2022, an ordinance amending Part 1 of Title 12 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Harrisburg, entitled Affordable Housing, incorporating applicable fair rental measures promulgated by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to improve local standards and affordability determinations and to provide for technical amendments.
Thank you. And I do see Director Hill here. I don't know if are you planning on to speak on this, or would this just be Solicitor Grover? Okay.
I think Ms. Hill was invited by the council president to speak on this.
Yep. Director Hill, yeah, do you mind joining us?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I just wanted to provide some, I'm sorry, Denise Hill, Director of Housing and Economic Development here for the city. And I just wanted to provide some statistical data that goes along with this bill as it relates to the HUD 2022 income limits. So the area that HUD defines as Harrisburg, Carlisle, actually covers Cumberland County, Dauphin County, and Perry County. So I like to keep that in mind as we are talking about income limits, fair market rent, things along those lines. And just to remind everyone or state for the record that the income limits that or amounts that we see in Harrisburg City proper are not reflective of that entire area. So the median family income for the HUD defined Harrisburg metropolitan area is $94,300 per household. And at 80%, which is considered low income, a family size of 1 in order to be at or below the poverty rate of 80% is $52,850. A family size of 4 is $75,450. Family size of 8 is $99,600. And as we know, most households in our area are not making those gross, even at those family size amounts. And then fair market rate amounts and efficiency as defined by HUD. A fair market rent rate for an efficiency is $732. A 1-bedroom is $843. A 2-bedroom is $1,074. 3-bedroom is $1,364. And a 4-bedroom is $1,456. And then again, with the rent market that we have, it is not reflective of these amounts. So rent rates are much higher than what fair market rate states. So as it relates to this bill, and Mr. Grover can expound more if needed, but there was language that was added to the existing bill that was passed in spring of last year, just to make it more congruent with the HUD definitions. And also to state that HUD puts out cost of living, income limits, fair market rates. They release them every year. So these additions will make it so that those adjustments can be made without it being changed every single year because the numbers have changed.
No, only that on the legal side, we determined after this was introduced that there has to be a corresponding amendment to the zoning code that was adjustment that was passed in 2021, just because the definitions crossed over. If you remember, it was a 4-bill package at the time.
Yeah.
And we went back and looked, and we had to make a corresponding amendment over there.
Okay. Thank you. And just so clear, so all these numbers are based upon the MSA that Harrisburg is in
That's
in
correct.
relation to HUD.
Yes.
So the other piece that I know we were discussing, when this bill initially had come down previously, was the inclusion of the small area fair market rents.
Which has been added now as part of the bill.
Right, no,
So-
I understand. But those numbers differ from the HUD MSA, 'cause if you're looking at those small areas, that they base those more off of zip code level data versus the whole MSA.
Yes, and the idea was to frankly take two concepts from federal housing and put them in a way that hopefully works within the city for what our unique needs are, because incomes are so low.
Correct.
That the zip code approach will allow us to adjust as we put the program up and running for the reality on the ground. Whether it works, my
right,
question is,
that was-
I simply don't know. Our research on affordable housing around Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and around the country when we put this together was that while it's talked about a lot and it's workshopped a lot, at the local level, there is very little effective legislation that's actually working out there. So we're sort of in that experiment mode. That Harrisburg's trying to do what everyone's talking about you're going to do to make affordable housing. And it was hitches that led us to do this. When people started to come and say, well, how will you calculate this? How will you do this?
Right.
Whether this works until we get it into the next step, and we're dealing with the practical questions from someone who's actually doing it, then we'll have a better sense of whether it works. But
Okay.
there's not, from at least our view, a good model that we can actually see executing. There's been a lot of discussion, a lot of ideas. Finding some place that it's working well is challenging.
Right, no, I agree. Like I said, I was going down the line of questioning or questions that I would have with excuse me, or with respect to that. So understanding that, I guess, so you haven't been able to find a jurisdiction where they're actually attempting to utilize the small fair market rent area and it be accepted by HUD for the affordable housing piece.
Yeah, we're not looking for accepted by HUD in here, right? We're accepting locally. We're not
Right.
getting HUD money for these.
Okay, right, so, okay, well, then let me rephrase. Then, so do we expect, I guess, this to be able to hold up when we're looking to work with potential contractors and landlords and those that we have to work with to try to address some of our affordable housing needs in the city of Harrisburg?
Right, we are very much, I think, on the leading edge right now in coming up with an experiment to work. And will this satisfy developers and builders? I believe there are actually builders and developers who are sincere when they say they want to provide affordable housing as part of it. They just can't afford it. The 4-bill package that this council adopted is an attempt to incentivize them to some degree to do it, to find a path forward. But until we get down to where the rubber meets the road, where we put the numbers on paper, is it going to work for the plans that I get? We don't know. I mean,
Okay.
and
Right.
so we
And
will
then I
find
know,
out.
okay, so then I remember back in September, we sent an email out to Mr. Davis and maybe some other folks, and we hadn't received any feedback from any of those folks regarding Bill 9.
I have not.
Okay, thank you. We have some additional questions, but I'll open up to questions from my colleagues. I will start with President Bauer, since she has been one of the leading folks working on this.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I'm just glad we have something in place that can be amended to meet our needs. I'm hopeful that the zip code approach will help us reach a more reasonable and realistic rent range for our residents. As you probably have seen over the past couple months, since the beginning of the year, developers come through, and I think 20% is reasonable. In many instances, it's one unit that would have to be deemed affordable, max sometimes 3. But I feel like if you can't meet that, then what's the point? Some responses that we've received are, oh, it's going to be a beautiful building. It's going to really be a vibrant addition to the neighborhood. That's nice, But when it's vacant and nobody can afford to live there, again, what's the point? So I feel like our standards are within the 20% are reasonable. And I feel like if developers can't meet that, then it's always a no for me. But I'm hopeful again that the zip code will assist us in that. And thank you for providing the rent or potential rent amounts. I think that's always helpful to look at the numbers because that's what brought us back to this amendment. The numbers just weren't right in the initial draft, and we knew that. But I'm happy to see that we're moving forward and we won't have to come back annually to amend this. So that's, I think, is another starting point. So hopefully other municipalities will follow our lead for once and implement or try to meet the needs of our residents the best way we can, because we know that with safe and affordable housing, I know I feel like I'm always preaching or on my soapbox about it, but I really believe strongly that safe and affordable housing will really spur everything else within our community. Education, it'll shift our transient population and stabilize our housing market. So thank you.
Thank you, President Powers. Vice President Green.
Thank you. I don't have any questions regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mattson.
No questions for me. I think the council president nailed it on the head. Only thing I would add is that it's also, I think, a human right to have those things in affordable housing. And so happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Ross.
Thank you, Councilman Majors. The sentiments are the same with President Bowers and, you know, everyone else up here on council. I'm just ready to have something in place so we can help people. I think our world has shifted to a way where we love money and use people instead of loving people and using money. We just have it backwards. So everyone deserves a safe place to live, affordable, so they can get back up on their feet and do what it is they need to do that's necessary. So I'm with anything that comes through that does that. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair Majors. I have no questions, just really happy that we're revisiting this and, you know, making the adjustments proper, because as you know, year to year, it can change, and it could be the difference between a family finding something of a value that they can raise their family in, or, you know, going shelter to shelter, unfortunately. So we do recognize that the city's average isn't the county's, et cetera, et cetera. So I thank President Bowers for all the work she's done, and you as well, Director, and I just look forward to supporting as we move forward. Thank you.
All right, and Councilwoman Daniels. All right, thank you. Because lastly, I know, I guess I'll do this then. What I'll do is I'll work with you, Director Hill, just to make sure we have, as we do this presentation, hopefully we'll put this on the agenda for our next legislative session, just to go over the small area fair market rates that are touch the zip codes that are in the city of Harrisburg, because they do vary a little bit, and because of how the zip codes are based around the city, we do touch other neighboring municipalities, which does have that number fluctuate depending on where the development potentially could be. So I just want to make sure that that information is included in the record as we're going to move forward on this. So unless there are any other questions, I'd ask that we move this forward to our next legislative agenda. And thank you for being here. Thank you, President Bowers. That concludes the work of the Building and Housing Committee.
Thank you, Chair Majors. Our final committee business comes from the Public Works Committee, Chair Madsen.
Okay. Thank you for that. Could we read Resolution 66 into the record?
Yes, sir. Resolution 66, 2022, a resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with the township of Swatara for the purpose of allowing for ongoing use of a compost facility owned by the township of Swatara.
So I'm just gonna give the solicitor a heads up, given regarding the compost facility, I'm gonna have some questions regarding. It's been a long issue with surrounding municipalities and just sort of status updates on
Sure.
where we're at with.
Did you want to start there?
Yeah, okay. So for the benefit of the public who I think this went back to when I first got on council. We, the state came down, I believe, and said, but we have to have a compost facility within our jurisdiction. It can't be in the floodplain, so there wasn't a whole lot of areas we could do it. Outside of an area that was technically owned by the city, but in Susquehanna Township, the compost facility. Yeah, go ahead.
So sort of.
Yeah.
But DEP said, stop burning woody waste and grass at the incinerator. We will find you. They were very clear about it when it happened. That led to this search. As you know, this council voted a few times related to both things, both this Swatara Township composting facility. I think this is the third time you voted on it. And on the one that we attempted to get an option for from the Harrisburg School District, who happened to own that land. At the direction of the mayor, that matter that was up on appeal, both in the Common Pleas Court and in the Commonwealth Court, was withdrawn this year. And that issue is no longer at issue.
Okay.
That piece of land. I understand Susquehanna School District is planning to put a school building or a facility on that land and is working on that arrangement with the Harrisburg School District. There was this middle school for the Harrisburg School District long ago. Why it was in Susquehanna Township, I don't know, but that's where it was. And that's what the same piece of land is. So we are out of that discussion altogether.
Okay.
The only thing we actually have to do is we have our salt dome on that land and we're still working to how to relocate it to a new location. So now we just have no Harrisburg composting facility at all. And so we have this agreement that has been before this council previously.
Thank you for that. I didn't know that it was resolved, so that was helpful for me. But that's good to know that we're getting along with our neighbors now. I was at the Susquehanna Township Board meeting when the previous administration was pitching that compost facility, and it did not go well.
It was very warmly received, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's one way of putting it. Okay, well, if you'd like to get us up to speed on where we're at currently with this contract.
This will authorize our Public Works Department to utilize the composting facility owned by Swatara Township during our leaf collection season. Our season was kicked into full gear a few weeks ago with our 2 leaf collection trucks out throughout the city. And we are currently in conjunction with the street sweeping schedule headed up by CRW. That way our residents kind of know when we're coming and expect when we're going to be there. We also collect leaf bags during this time of year. Of course, all the leaves are falling and some residents prefer to bag them instead of breaking them out to the edges of the roads. And this facility has been used in the past by the city of Harrisburg. And this will allow us to dump the leaves that are collected at a facility that's not too far away for us to do more leaf collecting than driving to a facility somewhere further away. Pretty much it.
Yeah, this seems pretty straightforward to me. What is the overall cost again? Just
It's $50,000 a year. And so just for the record, that's the same price we were paid in 2021 when Swatara Township formalized this with other municipalities. It was very informal for years. And then they entered intergovernmental cooperation agreements across the board. This is actually just from the transition of administrations. This contract goes back to January 1 of 2022. In the past, they've been 1-year contracts. This is a 2-year contract, so it goes through December 31st of 2023, but it's automatically renewable unless either party gives an advance notice of not renew, which does simplify matters. This also has a annual increase of 3%, which was not in the prior agreements. So it lets you sort of plan for the future for what you need. So those are, they have a new solicitor out there as well. And this is the terms that we talked about and they're willing to do the same. I will note this is up for a vote in November out there as well in the township. So if the township thinks differently, their elected officials will be back to you with if they think differently.
We think that they think differently?
No, their lawyer tells me they're good.
Okay,
So, but I never presume a vote till the vote happens. So,
understood. Fair
so,
enough. Okay, I don't have any additional questions. Again, this seems pretty straightforward to me. I'm glad to hear that we resolved it. Now, there isn't some sort of requirement, because I was under that impression that we have to have a compost facility, or can we continue to, is this a permanent solution then?
who knows with DEP? I can't really say that. It's that we cannot use the facility under that we had our waste going to. We could no longer use that, which was the incinerator. So we had an obligation to compost. That's the obligation. And this is a solution to that. So,
all right. We'll open questions to far left with Councilman Rodriguez.
No questions. I just have more of a statement. It's good to see that the intergovernmental governmental bodies are working together, and I look forward to see their decision. But I'm positive that with Director West and Deputy Griffin, we're in good hands. So thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Oh. Daniels?
Just if you could elaborate a little bit more on the contract. So it's $50,000. Are there limits to how much like weight we can compost? Are there limits to timeframes for when we could use the facility?
so
If you could elaborate.
I don't believe there's any limits on weight. We have to use it at the regular hours. So they have set gate hours that we must meet, which I think is 8 to 3. The days we're allowed there, and 8 to 2 on Saturdays. So they basically, there's a facility on the West Shore that's different, where you get a pass card electronic, which was looked at one point. And so your people come in when your people come in. That's not that type of arrangement.
And does it is there a term limit to this agreement?
So this agreement is 2 years long, but it goes back to January. So it's 2022 and 2023, but it's automatically renewable for 1 year at a time. Unless you go, I think it's 60 days advance notice. Either party can do that if the arrangement's not working.
That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Majors.
Thank you. I guess the one question I do have, and I'm glad we're at least here on the leaves, and it's the compost material is limited to leaf waste material only, correct? So I know when folks back up, it may include tree branches, other things, et cetera, that will come in the yard. So what do we do to segregate those things, and what do we do to address some of the branches and other things that may not be acceptable to SWAT era?
So we have our roll-off containers that we fill with the larger branches and stuff like that. And we transport that stuff down to Zeger's, which is, I don't know if you know where Saturday's Market used to be.
Yeah.
So it's kind of across the street from there. I just give you a good reference of where it is, where everyone knew that was.
Okay. That was
So it's further away, but it's kind of
Yeah,
the only place where
aren't they
we,
building a big Amazon facility there?
yeah, they are. I think
I was
that's on the
curious.
other side of the road.
Right.
Zeger's is on the
On the
other
other
side
side,
of the road. But we don't pay anything to take that stuff there.
Okay. And then in terms of enforcement on our end, I know, how are we doing to ensure that when folks, in the fall are bagging things up, if you have a bag that has, or several bags that may have, other waste in it, are we tagging them? How do we address those issues?
We talk to residents to try and educate them on what they shouldn't or should be putting in there. We do pick up some things that they probably shouldn't have put in there. We just, when that happens, that's when we try to make contact with them and let them know, instead of just like saying we're not picking it up and all of that stuff.
All right.
We just try to more educate.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you for that. President Bowers.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify the term again. So you noted it's 2 years. The effective date was January 1st of 2022 with an automatic renewal for 1 additional year. Yeah, I think you said unless either party has an intent in not renewing. I think you mentioned a 60-day window, but this says at least 30 days.
Yeah, I was confusing that with the passage of the ordinance one as 60 days.
Okay,
They're two
I just
different,
wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Vice President Green.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rawls.
Good evening, Deputy Austin. Thank you for coming. I just have one question. Where is there a link to get to when the leaf collection happens? Just, 'cause I don't even know. I got tons of leaves. I don't.
I'm sure it's on the website.
On the city
The
government
city,
website?
yeah, the city.
Okay, I'm gonna try to look for it. And then it's not, is it the street sweeping? That's not the same. Is that the?
We run in conjunction with that schedule,
Oh, okay.
with the street
So-
sweeping schedule. So
Oh, okay.
kind of so people's cars aren't out of the way when our
That
big
makes
truck is
sense.
coming through.
That makes
As close as we can get to the curb line and that, so.
Okay, that works. And then is there a limit to how many bags can be placed out with leaf? Okay.
No, we pick up whatever they
Whatever.
bag up.
And does that go out like the same day as your trash, or can that go out?
That's also in conjunction with the street sweep.
Okay, you can see I haven't put a lot out because I don't know all of it. Or limited bags, yeah. Last season was rough. So, but okay, thank you.
Chair Madsen. This will also be a good time for a plug for the My Recycle Coach app. It's an app that the city has the availability to use. Residents can download the app. You input your zip code and it will tell you and give you a reminder on your phone when your street sweeping day is, when your leaf collection day is, and when your trash day is. So I utilize it and I get that reminder every time. So for folks, especially in the fall, as you're trying to deal with leaf collection and everything, there's a quick little note on it. My Recycle Coach.
My Recycle Coach.
Yep.
Very good.
And there's usually street signs in front of people's homes with the street sweeping schedules on them also.
Yep, you'll put, usually it's the municipality and the zip code. We can talk offline. I have it on, I'll give you all the information.
Okay, was there anything else? Any other questions or anything for the good of the order? Okay, hearing none. We will move resolution 66 for a vote at our next legislative session. Thank you. This concludes the business for the Public Works Committee.
Thank you, Chair Madsen. At this time, we will move to public comment. We will open the floor for public comment. Just as a reminder, 2 minutes. Mr. Truesdale will serve as our timekeeper. Please state your name and address for the record. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your address, please share the vicinity in which you live. I don't think we have anyone, but I will review as if we may. Anyone to my right that would like to offer public comment? Okay, seeing and hearing no one. Anyone in the middle section? Seeing and hearing no one. Anyone to my left? Seeing and hearing no one. Before we adjourn, I just wanted to note upcoming scheduling for Harrisburg City Council. So just for everyone's reference, next Tuesday, November 8th, 2022 is Election Day. So we will not host a meeting next Tuesday. Our next council meeting will be a legislative session on November 15th, 2022. One highlight for that particular legislative session, is we will commemorate Kirk Smallwood Day during our communications. Former 2-time state champion, varsity boys basketball coach for Harrisburg High School, former athletic director. So we will celebrate Kirk Smallwood Day then. If there are any former players, former coaches that are available to celebrate with us, that legislative session will begin at 6 p.m. and the recognition will occur in the beginning of the meeting. So please try to be timely. Council members, the time is 7:19 PM. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.